Jealousy is a
Yeah.
disease. So disease, your success is making them feel distressed.
Gossiping for me is a big red flag in a friendship, and jealousy.
I think sometimes these red flags take a while to show up because they're your friends. Some people just hate you.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Are we recording? Take one. Run the tape.
I'd like to start with red flags in friendship is when someone come across as overly nice and complimentary and mimicking, copying all your creativity, your clothing, your shoes. And if something great happens in your life and you want to share some fantastic news, they're not happy for you, and you can see it in their face. They're just like, oh, that's great. Or if someone is a true friend and they love and respect you, they will be happy for your successes. And so I think the point when it gets competitive and they're not happy for your happiness or mimicking you, or that element of jealousy and envy, and they want what you have and your blessings in your life, then it's good to draw like a good boundary to protect your energy. So I think that's an important red flag to look for in friendships, is when someone's not happy for you, or even to the point where they can get passive aggressive and like put you down or put down your successes, or oh wow, that you're happy about something and you want to share it with them, and they're like, well, that's not that amazing, or I could do that, or they start competing, I could do that, that's easy. Because I think a true friend is, they're happy for your successes and they understand that your success is their success, because you can both grow together and elevate together.
Absolutely, yeah. I think based on what you said, that's so true. And I'm just thinking of red flags in friendships. I think for me, it would have to be manipulation. Because you have friends sometimes who, they have their set of friends, and it's okay for them to go away with their friends. You don't have an issue with that. But when you are with your friends and it's not them, it becomes a massive problem. They're throwing a straw, they're just, the behavior is just terrible. And you're trying to manage both sides because you value both, the different friends in your life. And this person is almost behaving as if they own you.
Yeah, controlling.
Very controlling, angry, just, and you're really trying so hard to keep it together, and you're like, oh, And for me, I think that is a massive red flag, because sometimes when we love people, we make excuses for them and we say, oh, that's that person, that's the way they behave. But, you got to get to a stage where I have to draw the line. Enough is enough. And, you go do you and I'll do me.
It's run its course. Yeah. Because I think sometimes these red flags take a while to show up because they're your friend, and maybe, it's like, oh, well, they're having a tough time, I'm happy to help, blah, blah, blah. And then you start to realize that maybe they're using you for your kindness or your generosity or for your position that you're in. And then you do a bit of growing and then realize that actually this isn't a kind of, friendship should be balanced. And I'm not saying everyone should do the same for each other, but they complement each other. So you do have friendships where you kind of, someone can do this and the other person can do that, and that's how it works. But when someone's kind of just using you for what benefits them, but not considering that you also have a life and you also have stresses, but you may not be as vocal about them. So I think, it's kind of similar. Selfishness can kind of appear, and then I think, it's about growing and realizing that actually this isn't okay, and it's run its course and you go a different path.
I would say gossiping about other people is a big red flag for me, because I just feel like, why do you care? Like, why do you care so much about someone else's life? Because I just think if you can gossip so much about other people, what can you say about me behind my back? And it's like, I think people that tend to gossip, they thrive off like someone's downfall. It's very easy, I'd say, to kind of be there for someone when they're going through a hard time. And when I mean easy, I mean to throw like a few, oh, I'm really sorry you're going through that. And I feel like people that are like, I'm really sorry to hear that, they just want to know about the negative aspects of what you're going through, because it makes them feel maybe like a little bit better about themselves or their lives. And it's like what you were saying, in the sense of when you're doing well and successful, they go very quiet. Like that speaks volumes to me in a friendship. Like if I'm really excited and happy about something that I'm accomplishing or I'm doing, and you go very quiet, I just don't take that as real. I take that as very fake. But as soon as I'm going through a very difficult time, it's like you're really quick to want to know the ins and the outs of it. Like you'll get friends that genuinely care and they want to know because they want to like help you heal in that situation. But then you'll have friendships where they just want to know for their own satisfaction of just knowing that you're not going through a good time. And I just think gossiping for me, like especially, I think it's more like when you're a little bit younger that gossiping occurs. I used to think, actually, should I say, but it still happens. Like because I used to think like when like people would gossip, I used to think, oh, like I'm sure like people grow out of this, like it's just immature. But then you have to remember, like not everybody's got the like mature mindset that you might have grown. Like some people are still stuck in that like teenage mindset, and in the sense of like that gossiping. But yeah, that's a big red flag for me. Like if you're constantly talking, I don't care. Like I'm sure they're going through certain things in their life that maybe they're tackling or going through. Like I'm not going to sit here and judge someone based on their life choices that you might not agree with, and vice versa. I wouldn't want someone to judge me based off what I'm doing. So if you're somebody that just cares to gossip so much, it's just not for me. I don't even want to be around it. I just don't care. Like, yeah, if you can't help somebody, then just don't even bother talking about it. If you can't actually help that person that's gone through the situation, why do you care to know? The only reason why I care to know about someone's struggle is to see I could help you. Even just being a listening ear can be a massive help. Sometimes someone just doesn't even want any like help necessarily, in the sense of like something like a gift or a therapy. Like they just want somebody that's going to listen. That in itself can be a form of therapy. But yeah, gossiping for me is a big red flag in a friendship, and jealousy.
And competing.
Yeah.
Doesn't it all go hand in hand anyway?
It does. It does.
Or like
Competing.
competing, jealousy, envy of what you're achieving, rather than being your cheerleader, being on your journey. It's kind of
Because
like
your friend should be your biggest cheerleader.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think as you like, if you've had like friendships as well for like like years, it's so beautiful to see like the evolvement. Like have you ever like seen friends where they might have gone through like a very difficult relationship or family issue, and you see them quite at the other end, like it like makes your heart so warm inside, like, oh my god, I'm so happy, like you deserve the world. So like for me, like when somebody shows those red flags of jealousy and competitiveness and like gossiping and always like very negative, it's just like I can't understand why.
I think it's just their mannerisms, and they just don't know how to behave in any other way. It's someone's specific mannerisms. They're just stuck in that way of being. They're just used to being like that.
Yeah, could be due to an upbringing.
And some people just hate you. They're frenemies. They just hate you. You know, your every step. They, any successes. They absolutely. They're not happy for you. No, they're pretending to be happy.
Yeah,
But you can forget it.
jealousy is a disease. So disease, your success is making them feel distressed, and because they'll be like, why can't I have that? The envy, they don't want you to have it, they want it for themselves. Why can't I have that house? Why can't I have that job? Why can't I have that opportunity? It's that competing. Why can't I look like that? And I just think you shouldn't compete with people. You should always just try and be better than the person you was yesterday. And like you said, try and help people. And so when they start comparing themselves with you, it's a red flag, because they're in competition with you. There's healthy competition, but then it's when it gets, you're either behind me, next to me, or in my way. It's when it gets heads on and they're trying to prevent you from moving forward, that they don't want you to elevate. And that's when you have to perhaps let go of that friendship.
I think it probably screams out insecurities in that person. Like sometimes your progression unintentionally might scream out insecurities that they have. and they don't know how to project that necessarily, so they project it in a negative way towards you, rather than to look at you and be like, oh, she's got, you know, like a job upgrade, like maybe I could look at what I can do, and maybe I could get some advice from her, or maybe I can elevate. Like, I always look at people's success as motivation personally. Like, I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool, like she's doing that, like that's dope. You know, I don't feel like, then that's where the healthy competition is, like, oh, you did that, like let's see if I can do that in a healthy way. But it might not even be necessarily that. Sometimes just let people shine in their own light, because everybody like has gone on their own journey and their trials and tribulations, and it's just their time to shine. It might not be yours yet. Like, just sit back, let that person enjoy their, you know, happiness.
It's like the tip of the iceberg. You haven't seen how much work and dedication they put to get where they are. They just look at your iceberg, and you're mirroring back something that they don't perhaps recognize. And say if you went to school and your childhood friend, and be like, how come this person has evolved or elevated so much in their life, and yet they haven't? So yeah, it brings out insecurities in them, like why not me, if they're competing with you.
Were you going to say something else?
Yeah, but there's another kind of aspect. If somebody's kind of not speaking about something, so if they know something about someone else that you're friends with, or your partner or something, and they don't tell you about it, that's a bit of a red flag as well, because they're not actually, or even like pulling you up on your behavior. Kind of, they're seeing you sink, but they're not actually challenging you. So your friends don't, yeah, it's good to support, but if they can see that you're going down the slippery slope, it's important for friends to kind of pull you up as well and say, hang on a minute, I know that this is your idea, but you're putting a lot of money and you don't know this person and you're taking a risk, or, you know, I've seen your partner doing this, this and this. Have you noticed their behavior or the way they talk to you? It's important for your friends to also point these things out and not just, oh, I won't get involved. So a good friend will kind of pull up those things out as well.
I think just to buttress your point, that probably boils down to expectations, because from different people, you expect different things from them, and depends on what you also put in the relationship. So, for instance, when you said something about your other significant, you know, your significant other, where you send a message and you see the blue ticks and they're not picking up, you're thinking, oh, that's strange. But then you're expecting them to always be available to you. You know, you're expecting them to check in. So it's almost, why are they ignoring me? Well, if it's friends, you understand, oh, they're busy, they have a life. Then your other half kind of has a life as well. Do you know what I mean? Yes, you are part of it. You're not the only person, but you're saying to yourself, I should be the most important person. It should be, you know, I'm very, you know, I'm number one. So all those kind of things, sometimes it's our expectations that almost create different red flags. So I say that's very, very subjective. For family members, if there are mothers, you know, depends on what they're calling you for. If they're calling to bug you, you're like, oh God, I can't deal with this woman today. You know, I don't have the energy for my dad today, you know, that kind of thing. So it won't matter. It's not that you don't care, but you don't have the energy in that moment to even want to have that conversation, or what you're saying, the red flags. You just let it go, because then it favors you in that way. So yeah, so it's just again, uncles, aunties, depending if they're your favorite uncle, you know, you guys are probably checking in and having conversations. If it's someone you can't even stand, you're like, oh God, what does he want? Trying to lord it over me, or something like that.
Family, when they mention, like, say, your weaknesses, for example, which, you know, they obviously known you all your life, I think it's more acceptable to take that constructive criticism on board if it's coming from a new friend, say, that hasn't known you all your life. So I think I would take the constructive criticism, and if they were putting me down or having a bad day, or, you know, with the family politics, I would perhaps you know, be water off a duck's back. But if it was a friend, expect sometimes a bit more, depending how long you've known them.
Yeah, I think as well, sometimes it can, not always, but it can boil down to where you see yourself as a priority in their life. So if you're like dating someone or getting to know someone, or even in like a deep relationship with somebody, and they're not necessarily like replying to you, like in your head, you've put yourself as a massive priority, and like their life. So it's like, if you're not replying to me, like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing that's so important? That's not me, which we can do. Whereas like you were saying, how with a friendship, you know, oh, they've probably got a kid that they're looking after, or they've probably got work at this time. You're more accommodating and understanding. So I think sometimes it can be just where you see yourself prioritized in their life, that you can feel like you give more leeway to your friend maybe replying like a day later, as opposed to the person that you're dating and seeing, you know.
But yeah, like you said, with friends, you know, they've got their own family lives and things. You don't see them as much or live with them.
So one of the red flags that I think sometimes that I see like in families and family can actually be money. And I feel like that's a massive red flag. I've seen like people's relationships with their siblings, you know, cause a massive disruption in their life, whether it was maybe growing up and they didn't really have much. So it's conditioned their mind to really focus on money being a forefront of like surviving. For example, like God forbid, if somebody's parent passed away and somebody gets a certain element of the will and etc., like it can cause a lot of like issues. And there can be like there's element of selfishness in there sometimes. If like one person's a little bit more greedier than the other, one person kind of just lets things slide. For example, like who gets a house, who gets the car, who gets this. And I think like money, I see, happens a lot more in affects, should I say, it affects families more than I'd say like a friendship. Friendships, you feel like are a little bit more pettier as opposed to family. Like it could be like, oh, that person, I covered the dinner, they didn't pay me back, or I got an Uber, they might not have paid me back when they said they would. So those things you might like are more likely to be like, oh, whatever, like it's not that deep. Whereas I feel like when it comes to like something like a property or like large amounts of money, I think those can be like really big things that can cause really big issues. Yeah, I've seen it happen a lot.
And can go on for years as well. Because, you know, everyone is thinking, maybe I've invested X amount in my parents' life and this is what I am due. And, you know, when the will is read or that split happens, you know, people start thinking, you don't deserve it. You only called once a year. You know, how do you get to split the money equally? Or like you said, you know, those kind of things. And it can go on for years because people feel very angry that they're not given what they do. So definitely money is a very, very big red flag.
Once that person's gone, it's about that person and not about their money. And yeah, it's just kind of a weird... people can show their true colours when money comes into the conversation. It's their norm, because everybody's got a different kind of perspective and background, upbringing, all those things that have affected the way they behave and respond to people. So
yeah, there's elements of like greed in there. Like when money's involved, I think there's sometimes a lot of greed that can cause like issues. But I feel like when it comes to family and like tackling those type of red flags, I think family is always going to be a family, whether you like it or not. And just because they're your family, it doesn't mean that you have to choose to be cool with them. Like it's okay to take an approach where you feel like, you know what, this person isn't actually a good person to me, even though it's my, let's say hypothetically, your mom or your dad or a sibling. It doesn't mean that I have to have that bond and that connection. Like I can be casual, but like keep myself at a distance. But I feel like if you genuinely feel like certain red flags, they can be worked on. I think definitely communication is very important, and then comprehension after that to see their behavior. But then sometimes I think people's behavior, you can only control how you react to their behavior.
Yeah.
Red flags.
To do with a red flag in friendship, it is really communication. I don't think I can emphasize it enough, because you people have different upbringings, you have different values, different visions. You people have different ways in which you think the relationship should play out. Listening as well, because sometimes your way might not be the other person's way. And I say compromise as well. You know, while you're communicating, there has to be some form of compromise, because if any friendship at all is convenient, is that really a friendship? So compromise, lots of love, and I say lots of hugs as well, why not?
Thank you for your participation. It's been topical. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for the next episode. ya.